Okay, so I thought I had a really good idea because I don't know if you ever like listen to podcasts where someone's promoting a movie and then they keep saying the same anecdotes over and over again, and you're like, I know I already heard you tell that story. Well, I kind of felt like that about my South by intro. Was I shouldn't do that again. It'll feel stale and less earnest. So I wrote a new one, and now I'm like, I don't know why I did that. So if it feels a little stilted and I stumble over it, that's my fault. But I'm just gonna get into this. So, all right, look, I need to thank some people who made tonight possible. So, to be clear, this movie is my life. It's everything I love in 1 hour and 47 minutes. But this movie is what they call a big swing. So, it's rated R. It's based on fucking nothing. It's a bunch of genres at once. Now, I knew it would be awesome, obviously, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, I needed someone who believed in the movie and believed in me. So, enter 20th Century Studios. So, or to be more specific, enter Steve Asbell and Sarah Shepard. So, I rate studio heads on how much they love Psycho 2. And Steve is the only person I know who loves it more than I do. And it makes sense because it is better than Psycho. He's never said that. He wouldn't say anything that's like blasphemous as I just did. But I think it's a perfect movie. So Sarah Shepard is the SVP and she championed this movie every fucking day for years. So they read this wild script a few years back and loved what I had to say and decided to go on this adventure with me. So this was a big swing on their part. But as they say, you can't hit a home run without a big fucking swing. So, Steve, thank you. Sarah, thank you. You have my back. You gave me the resources and support I needed to make this insane movie everyone is about to see. I will appreciate it forever. To everyone else involved, thank you. Richard Middleton, thank you. My producer, Andrew Lazar, you're not here, so who gives a fuck? And I thank you a lot at South by. Just to be clear, that's a joke. I love him with my whole heart. He's a great guy. And don't rat me out for those jokes. I'm kidding. I told him not to do that. My crew, thank you. My cast, thanks for trusting me and absolutely fucking crushing it. There's like so many people to thank. That's why we added credits to the movie. So when you see names in the opening and names in the ending, I said, can you put everyone I'm grateful for in some sort of format? And that's what that is. So, you know. So I want to thank my girlfriend, Chris. I love you. And you're not here. So I hope someone is recording this and texts you a video and you think it's cute and it makes you feel less FOMO. If you weren't recording it, that is your fault, and I hope it haunts you for the rest of your life. You're supposed to be like her best friends. I want you to know that. Okay, thank you, Beyond Fest. I've been going to your events for what seems like decades now, and there's nothing better. Thank you, my Mal sidekick on this roller coaster. Thank you to my reps. They did right by me. Thank you to my publicist. And thank you everyone else at the studio in other divisions I didn't mention. If you had any involvement in this movie, I think you're fucking great. So, I gotta wrap this up because I got emotional on stage at South by and it was really embarrassing, and I don't want to do that again. But you're about to watch a buddy action comedy with a bunch of surprises. It's a big dumb movie that came straight from my big dumb heart. So, God fucking damn it. I got really close. God fuck. Okay, anyway, have fun. It's a fun movie. We'll be back afterwards for an epic Q&A. Thanks.
Right at the director, the man that wrote Magical Dick Bird, is that the line? He killed Dolph Lundgren and Keith David. Ladies and gentlemen, it's BenDavid Grabinski.
As much as it may seemingly be my movie, what really matters is movie stars. So I'm going to introduce some people who are going to come up to the stage. I'm going to start with the most wonderful actor ever who inexplicably is in everything I fucking do, Mr. Stephen fucking Root. And then I'm going to go with a guy you may know as Dumbass Tony, but is one of the smartest people I know, Arturo Castro. And then a extremely dirty cop, the charming Canadian, Officer Shear, the Emily in Hampshire. All right, and then, I think he was the star of the best show that's ever been on Netflix. If you haven't seen American Vandal, his name is Jimmy Tatro, the guy who fucking rules. And the best Alice I've ever known in my fucking life, Eiza González. You guys can start trading seats if you want. Okay, then Mike, quick draw Mike, James Marsden. And then somehow I got this guy to play himself fucking twice, Vince Vaughn. You guys can say whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. It's gonna be chaos, there's so many people, not everyone's gonna get a question, but we're just happy to be here. It's very organized and you can blame me. If I make a sequel, there'll be like names on the chairs at the end.
It's Vaughn.
Here you go, sir.
Can we have a full round of applause for some great This is going to descend into chaos, so I think we just go anywhere we want. But BenDavid, this film is complete lunacy. And you said at the beginning it was all of the dumb things in your dumb brain, you've got to put it out on the
They're
screen.
all the things I love, but
All
yes.
the things you love, yeah. Talk us through this, because you have time travel, you have insane gunfire, there is a romance in there, which we actually feel, so thank you for that. How did you make this film? Where does this thing come from?
Okay, the simplest version is that I wanted to make a buddy action comedy that I hadn't seen before, and I wanted to make a time travel movie where everyone knew how the time travel worked was dead, so there's no person to do charts and graphs and talk about all that stuff. And what I wanted to do was take an actor who could do anything and have them play the wiser, more enlightened version of themselves, and the person pre that, and let them butt heads and be charming and interesting. And that led to this whole premise in the movie that people just watched.
What was the writing process like? Because you could have gone down infinite rabbit holes.
I just basically chased every rabbit hole that I thought was awesome. It was just, to me, I was just trying to write something that felt really surprising and funny and fresh, and I tried to just chase creatively what made sense instead of thinking about how difficult it would be to execute, which leads to having to have someone play two people and deal with multiple genres and tones. And I was just trying to make something that I thought was really entertaining and could attract really talented actors with someday sit next to me on a stage. So, yeah.
It definitely worked. Vince, welcome back. This is your third Beyond.
Yeah, great to be here in Santa Monica here at Beyond Fest. Nice to be with everybody.
How was it playing this up twice?
I really have to say thank you to BenDavid and also to Disney and Fox. How lucky are we to have an original movie made nowadays? I read the script just to have an original idea that was its own premise and a tone that was so challenging. It's like, watching someone who's a diver. If you just don't splash the water, you'll probably get a good score. But when you start adding backflips and twists, so you'll have comedy, sci-fi, and you got drama and action. It was very, aggressive, the script in its attempt to tell a story. So BenDavid did a hell of a job, and it was really fun to take the ride with him. But it was a learning curve as an actor, right? For me to dive into each scene, because we had to commit to everything to say, what does the action feel like, or what does the comedy feel like, and how do they all marry? So I think he did a hell of a job of putting something original together. So for me, it was fun. It's always fun to do something a little bit different. And I think, playing yourself twice, you just have a little bit more dialogue to memorize, and change your wardrobe occasionally and that kind of stuff. But it was fun to do something that was a little bit different. I love that answer. I'm going to say it one more time. So here's what I'm kidding.
So opening up that to the rest of the cast, because we have so many people here. How was it acting? Trouble down there. How was it acting against not one but two Vince Vaughns? And how did you keep track of this?
Well, it was double the pleasure. Loved it. Well, he handled it with aplomb, and that's, I'm sure, not a surprise to anybody here. The guy's physical, he could do the action sequences, obviously the comedy. I looked up to you for so long. Like he said, he described it, it's got so many different types of movies rolled into one here, and it's great to do something that's not risk averse, and actually something that's original and takes, like you said, big swings. And it was just a ball. It was like a big party. And two offenses, yes, to answer your question.
It looks like a party. Was it a party? The rest of the cast? How was it making this film? Because it looks like everyone had a lot of fun.
I think everybody had a blast. It was amazing. Vince and I had done some other films the last few years, but we didn't get to talk to each other. So it was fun to be able to talk to each other in this movie. But everybody's amazing in this movie, don't you think?
I just have to say as an aside, there's a black and white flashback where you see him and he's wearing a crew jacket, and it's from the VFX crew of Baby's Day Out to Baby Out of Time. And then it had like a baby with like a spinning clock, as if they made a time travel sequel to Baby's Day Out. And I own the coat, and it fits me, and I was gonna bring it for him to wear tonight, and it didn't fit my suitcase. So that gag, I didn't get to do it. Anyway, continue.
The rest of the cast. Well, actually, before we get to the rest of the cast, Steve, who dressed you? Was that your own ensemble?
No, that was delicious BenDavid.
Well, my costume designer did send me a photo that was Kevin Smith with some giant shorts. And it was just legendary. I think it was just amazing. And I was like, we gotta give him the Kevin Smith shorts. So when he steps through the door, that's what he's doing.
They're technically called, are those jorts? Is that what they're called?
I'm not a scientist. The only scientist dies in the first scene of the movie, but maybe they are shorts. I'd have to look that up.
You think, lots of people died in this movie. A couple of you folks down there, terrible deaths. How was it making this fantastic film?
Well, it was, as you could see, pretty fun for our side of the movie. We were just kind of in this parallel party universe to everything that they were doing. So the first time I saw it, it was nice to see the actual movie. I was like, oh, this is what you guys have been up here for months. All we've been at the strip club and just dancing and confetti and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're pretty much in the party phase the whole time.
We're pretty much in a party phase until the very end, which is still a party phase. So yeah, it wasn't too stressful for our side of the movie.
Well, we had two movies we're making. One that was intense, that involved motion control cameras and a bunch of like really elaborate things. And then the movie that Jimmy and Arturo and all them were in, where everyone just played one guy, and then they just tried to be charming and great. So they didn't have to do as much complicated stuff as Mike, Nick, and Alice did.
It wasn't until we got to the last, like, kind of the after part. Am I missing an after? Or is that,
There's four of them, I think you're mad.
And then I saw the motion control camera for the first time, and I was like, oh, this has been difficult, huh? This has been a pretty complicated shoot, it seems. You've been having fun.
And I gotta say, first of all, we were shooting in the romance capital of the world, Winnipeg. I went to acting conservatory for many years, and it all prepared me to this moment, playing Dumbass Tony. No, I gotta say, listen, obviously it's such an honor to be in the cast with all these guys, and oh my God, but there is a very hard part to doing this, which is keeping a straight face when Jimmy Tatro is like so earnestly talking about his dick to your face, and it's like, it's a night shoot and we gotta keep going, and I'm like, God, if he sings Beauty and the Beast in my face one more time, I'm gonna die. But the script was already amazing, since the moment you read it, I was laughing out loud, and I'm so grateful to BenDavid to have, us all part of the journey. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, that was the thing when I read that script. I wasn't even really in it. I was a boy in that script, and I said, I want to do anything in your movie, BenDavid, I'll bring you coffee, and then you made a girl part and gave me the cat.
She took, as a rap gift, she took one of the Cronenberg for President shirts that the character was wearing, and then had literal David Cronenberg sign it and gave me a photo of him signing it to prove she didn't forge his signature, to which I cried. I want to end tangents, and I just want to ask Eiza. Eiza, what was it like having to work with two Vinces?
Oh my God, it was incredible. I mean, it was just a joy. This movie was unexpectedly challenging and fun, and I think, I mean, obviously this is, you see the fun part, but I do want to give a shout out to our team, our crew, all our entire team in Winnipeg, because it was a challenging, I mean, I'll walk you through a little bit of how the board and stuff, but you have to do wide, and then we have to set Vince, and then Vince has to change, and then we have to come back, and then we have to all sit in the same place and make sure that we rhythmically are getting the same thing while doing comedy. So as you all know, comedy timing is so specific, and then we have to go into close-ups and we have to make sure that it's right, and we're kind of hitting the same marks that we did, but you still want to find something new in every take that, you know, you're also, it's all about timing and moments and beats, and so I just want to say that was so challenging, and it does make, you have to have really good actors, and I'm not one of them, but everyone around me was, and so that really helps because it was really wild to see Vince and James, and I didn't get to spend so much time with them talking about their days, but it was just, it was amazing to see these fucking incredible actors just, Jesus Christ.
Emily, how many times are you gonna drop you had Cronenberg sign his shirt, so I'll let it go.
Yeah, but it is a talent, and I do want to say, it looks easy, that is really, really hard, and they kept finding new moments and new beats, and as an actress, that is so exciting. You're just learning, I'm just like taking it in, just like absorbing it as a sponge, and it was a crash course in comedy. I'd never done comedy before, ever, so it was just a joyride,
The thing, outside of the technical side of the film, that's obviously really complex, there's a balancing act as well with regards to different tones. You've got comedy in there, you've also got the action, but then, as I said at the beginning, there is this relationship, like there's a lot of heart in this film, right? You kept it grounded, you gave us a reason to care, not just about the relationship that you two have, but then also past Nick, when you have that moment and you're like, oh, God, yeah, I've lost my best friend after Stephen shoots Jenny. Before you talk about that, how you managed, and BenDavid, I want to really hear from you as well, because how you managed to keep all of those tones, like you're bubbling all of these parts.
Well,
it works so
I was
good.
never worried about the funny. What you need to worry about is sort of like the parts that are emotional and human. And like when I watch it, I've watched it like 1,000 times. Like I think Vince is so fucking funny in it. But the stuff that really sticks out for me is like the vulnerable moments, the human moments. And I think that like having to do that while also having this weird technical shit was just, I just find it like so impressive. And there's no movie if he doesn't feel like he is really fucking sad about this shit. And I just think that balance is like, as much as it's in my head and I know what I need it to be, if they don't kill that, then there's no movie. I mean, do you have any thoughts about the dramatic stuff, Vince?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this, but you have to be committed. That's what's unique about it. Like the comedy has to be committed, the action does, and you know, BenDavid had such a vision in his mind that I was trying to catch up to, but I knew you had to really buy in and commit to it, and how does it all fit going back to that. But you know, I'll just say, all these actors are so wonderful that I got to be with. They're very charming and funny, and I mean, Marsden's been so good in so many things for so long, and the physicality he brought, and there's a likability he has that I don't think the movie works without it, because
100%.
the stuff that the characters are asked to survive is so hard. It's like, one of my problems with the movie was with reading it was saying, how do we get past these issues? And I think, you know, in Eiza too, like, you brought a complexity, like even in that opening scene where it's strange, there's like a want to connect, but can you pretend to be nice? Like there's such a humanness to you. And I think that's really the secret. I said this to Jimmy, and I feel the same. I really like him and Keith David, and I don't really see them as bad guys. You know, like someone ratted out his son and he wanted to avenge him. It wasn't like they were out hurting people for no reason. So I think he really put together a really fun movie where there's such a likability and an emotional connection to these characters that is surprising given how jolly and how kind of jovial the movie is in nature.
It really, I was just gonna say that the piece that struck me, there's that sequence right before fight, it's actually right when Stephen comes, but before that, there's the dance that you two have at the wedding, and it's so beautiful. And at that point, it's just like, God, I love these guys. At that point, it feels real, and we want you to win. And then you walk in the door, and then you fill him full of lead. The first time that I saw that, I was like, oh, he just killed the guy. Like, and that really hurt. And then seeing it with you, so it's beautiful. Did you feel that as you were building out these characters and bringing those scenes together?
Yeah, I think, you know, a big part is casting. I think that Vince dove in something very specific. There's so much that you can do as actors, but I do think that there has to be natural charisma to these characters, and I do think that he did an incredible job across the board. Like, even if there's beats and moments of people, even like the guy at the gas station, he's hilarious. Like, everyone is funny and everyone has charisma, and that takes an eye of the director, and I have to give it to BenDavid because we didn't really chemistry test or anything. He just had a sense, because I do want to say this, he's such a, in the best way possible, BenDavid is a nerd. And like a cool nerd, like a very cool nerd. Like the coolest version of a nerd. He's watched every movie, and so when you sit down with BenDavid, he doesn't watch movies, he studies them, he analyzes the characters, the actors, and whatnot, and so you can tell that that's a see-through line into casting this movie. So we can do all we can, but I do think it takes an eye of how to mix personalities together and charisma together, and that's like an amazing casting director, which we have in BenDavid, and we just show up and listen to, okay, pull some gun fingers and do the wave, and we're just like, okay, here we go, and we just kind of go with it, and it just, you have to board the vision, you have to board the vision.
I have to say something about James. It'll sound like a joke, but it is serious and it is true, and it is, you know, the reality of what happened was you need someone who can be a very, very viable romantic lead who you're rooting for, who's like adorable and complicated and kind of has a history in that genre, but you also need someone to do really complicated choreography, because I wanted the guy to feel like this efficient mercenary who's tactical and focused. And I was watching Hairspray on a plane, and I was watching the dancing scenes, and I had a very, very strong hot take, which is that musical choreography and action choreography are indistinguishable, which is that if you can do dancing choreography, you can fucking do John Wick. And if I'd say anything, I think I was proved correct, because I think that I just treat it like any other choreography, and he did. And I think the scene when he comes in to the Andrew WK song and just wrecks a room, that is just, to me, that's indistinguishable for Hairspray, but that's also just my brand.
See what I mean?
You never think of an instance where those two movies would be related. You definitely didn't get the dancing out of me.
Well, we also did some of the dancing. I would always have him do the Burt Reynolds take, where you would do like scenes where he dances Burt Reynolds, do the characters Burt Reynolds, because technically, I think his biggest gift is his Burt Reynolds impression. So if I could do a Burt Reynolds cut of the movie where every time he's doing a Burt Reynolds riff as Mike, but anyway.
You referenced Andrew WK. Music is such a huge part of this.
Andrew WK's in the theater right now. But anyway, that song's really good. There's a lot of songs in the movie. There's 29 of them, and they're all my fault. Especially Dave Matthews at Strip Club.
I wrote that down. Dave Matthews in the strip club. What is wrong with you?
Everything.
Yes, that's true. Let's talk about music. As you're writing, is the music going in? Do you go back in, put a bunch of music?
My composer Joe is here somewhere, and I love that. He's one of my favorite people. So I wrote all the songs in the script and then ended up using about 60% of them. Like, obviously, Oliver and Company's gonna be there because it's cleared in advance. I mean, it's the most normal way to open a buddy action comedy, is someone singing a song from Oliver and Company. But you have to figure out that in Oasis in advance. Luckily, that was the first thing we did on the movie, is I had the studio clear that song way before we were greenlit or anything, way before they decided they were going to do a reunion. You and I are both big Oasis guys. And if the reunion had been planned, I never would have been able to afford it.
Blow the budget.
But yeah, it's like, you have a bunch of songs you think will work, and then some don't, and some do. And then a lot of it was just me and Mal sitting in my office. We did post in New York, and I would watch action scenes and just keep playing songs until one time I was playing it, and it's like I played The Boys Are Back in Town. I was like, oh, and this also works because the boys are back in town. And then I tried a million songs and nothing worked, and then I tried the Andrew WK song, and I was like, oh fuck. I bet someday that'll be in all our marketing. I didn't say that, but it ended up being in all of our marketing. But it is because I think it's awesome. But the music is my favorite thing. It also really helps with tone. Sometimes the music makes it funnier. Sometimes the music makes it more badass. Sometimes it makes it emotional. And sometimes you play a Dave Matthews song in a strip club. Which does not happen in real life because some movies are not real life. That's all I have to say. Let's do a new question. I'm talking about Dave Matthews.
No, I want to get into this. Dave Matthews had to clear the usage in the strip club.
That guy rules because he did. I mean, every song that's in there, someone had to say yes to. They didn't say no, or else you wouldn't have heard it tonight. That's a finished movie right there. It was funny. I was like, will they say yes? And a friend of mine's like, I tried to get them to do my movie, and they just passed for creative reasons. Guess what?
Dave Matthews is doing boy.
No, he's like, that's cinema, I think. I put words in Dave Matthews' mouth, but he said yes, so.
And Papa Roach was just happy for the check, right?
Actually, that was the hardest one. Yeah, that's a W 1 hour Q&A. We're moving the fuck on.
We'll get back to that one. We're getting that signal really quickly. I want to go, because this thing does look like a blast, and I want to work our way down. Best moment on set, all the way down. Steven, let's start with you. Outside of
Best moment on set was me grilling James about jury duty, I think.
Everyone did that.
Watching Vince in it's a gas station, improvising with the gas guy.
Wait, so you're saying improv in there? Like, how much of that was script or?
I wrote it verbally.
Vince, secret, was that all you?
Most of it was in the script. Sometimes you play around on the day. We all come up with stuff for each other. But David had a pretty good script. There was stuff that everyone, but with a comedy, it's pretty normal that you play around. So
I never could have written like a vegetarian hot dog, but it looks and it tastes. There's maybe 18 lines in there that I really wish I wrote, and I forever will wish I had. So thanks for that, Vince. Anyway.
You can claim Arturo.
I would say my favorite moments on set were listening to Keith David's stories. Like that silver, beautiful voice of his, like telling you he's been working since the early 80s. And that was just such a masterclass in storytelling, honestly.
He was like, you gotta go to Tony Roma's. Best pork ribs in Canada. I love Tony Roma's. I would say probably the scene when we were doing the cocaine. There's a lot that ended up on the cutting floor of that, but we were kind of getting more and more amped up on fake cocaine. I remember that being a lot of fun.
Mine was just, we shot how many nights in a row?
42 nights in a row,
42
which if you know
nights in
anything
a row.
like in movies, that's such shit. It was just 42 straight nights, and this is how wonderful everyone was, is you would never watch it thinking that they shot 42 straight nights in a row.
42, but we did. Oh, we did. And my favorite part was throughout those 42 nights, we'd be like shooting 20, and then Jimmy would pop out of nowhere. He'd be like, how's it going? And I'd be like, good, my guy. Where you been? He's like, I was just in LA. I'm back. I'm here for a day. I'm going back to LA. I was like, great. And then that would happen again in 20 days. And that kept happening. Until the last day, he walks in with glass stuck everywhere in his body. He's like, where you been? I'm like, here, motherfucker. He's like, I've been in LA. This is my last night. It's crazy. So that was my favorite. I was like, wow, somehow he's made it in the movie as much as we did. But we were there 40 fucking 2 nights. And Jimmy was in LA.
So I have voicemails from Keith David calling to check in whenever he left and we were making the A movie. and he'd just be like, hey man, I missed everyone, how's it going? How's all this stuff going? And I just have them all saved forever. It's like Keith David was having such a good time that he was just checking in whenever he gets sent back to LA and we go back to the main movie and he'd come back and he just wanted to see how everything was going.
Speaking of going back to LA, though, that scene when I'm covered in glass, I had to go directly from shooting that to the airport. Actually, we go to LA, I went to a wedding in New York.
Sorry.
But we literally waited to shoot it until the very end of the night, like 5 a.m. And I got to be on a plane in like 1.5 hours, and I'm about to get covered in blood. So we got all the glass off as quickly as we could, and like wiped me down. I just went straight to the airport and arrived in New York, like, whoa.
And then we kept shooting.
And they kept shooting.
I mean, so many, but Dolph Lundgren coming in for the day and carving a huge hole in his head. It's kind of fun.
Also, want to say, I bumped into him at a party and I said, hey! He goes, who are you?
Just about to talk about what a nice guy you were.
I was like, we did a movie together? He's like, oh, all right. Oh, look, she's in the movie. I was like,
Yeah, so many. I mean, I love doing the fight scenes with Vince. It was a blast, and it's no small feat. He's 6'6", 6'5", 5'10" at best. That was physics was against me, but I loved all the choreography. Those were fun days. I'm going to go on, but the scene where we're singing Oasis in the car was one of the more challenging moments too, because it was like we were all talking about the tone of this movie from the beginning. Like, what is the tone of this movie? There's so many elements and so many components woven into this tapestry, and it's a real impressive feat that they've pulled all of this off. Because sometimes, you do a big action movie and you don't necessarily care about some of the other stuff. And if you ask the audience to buy into a logic of a time machine, and they commit to that logic, and you can have fun with the fights and the choreography and all that kind of crazy monster stuff. And then if you ask them to invest emotionally, that's a really, really hard thing to do. And you pulled it off. And in that scene specifically, it was like, how are we singing as loud as at the top of our lungs? Is this joyous? Is it, it's a complicated emotions going on through that scene, but it just ended up being, I think, really perfect. But you threaded the needle on this movie with so many things, and my hat's off to you, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
yeah.
Is there any questions from you guys? I always like to hear questions from people here. Go ahead.
Right there.
Hi, this is a question for BenDavid. I was wondering the armor selection process. So, in the movie, you had a lot of
No, so that's very briefly, and it's both heavy and probably interesting. It's my favorite thing was I was really going through it in prep, and just to get dramatic for just a second, a friend of mine died first day of prep, and I named a hospital after him. And then in the last week of prep, my cat died. I was really fucked up about it, and my girlfriend had found him under a dumpster and had raised him, and then he passed. And my way of honoring Toby was to write a monologue for one of my favorite actors about my cat who died, but then make it about Jimmy Boy. So sitting on set, watching those two actors fucking crush it and do one of my favorite things ever, and then also having it be about my cat was, that's what movies are about. You make movies so that you can process your bullshit and turn it into a really funny scene. And then the guns, I picked a bunch of cool guns. So I was
Forever, right here.
So my question is about Gilmore Girls. What went through your mind to make such an important moment dealing with the ideas of who should be with who? Because it's such an emotional moment, but it's also very funny.
So this question is about the Gilmore Girls, and he's asking BenDavid what went through his mind.
I have a very simple answer to that. It works on 3 levels. One, almost everyone has a show or piece of media that they watch because their partner loves it, whether it's Vanderpump Rules or, Pretty Little Liars, whatever the fuck. There's something you watch because you love someone and you got invested in it because they love it. 2, I love the idea of a bunch of guys around a room debating about who's the best partner for a girl, and they're all vying to be the best partner for the girl, not realizing they're doing that 3, I had to set up the fact that she's gonna be a single mom, so you do a show about a single mom. So I'm hitting 3 bullseyes at once, and also I just want to say in a movie that Logan was the best partner for Rory, which is true. And that's it.
You're a big Gilmore Girls fan?
Definitely.
I mean, me and Keith David are. So I watched it from beginning a million times, and on set I realized Keith David's like, it's my favorite show, and he's a cat dad. So that guy rules.
Wow. All right. One more. Right over there. Yep.
Hello. So what was the hardest action sequence to film for this movie?
Hardest action sequence to film.
Let's ask the actors.
Well, some of them are easy because they kind of use stunt doubles. And then, some of them are hard because we're actually out there busting our ass. So, yeah, it was cool. It was just different, some of it was me and James and doing stuff, and then other times it was professionals.
David, do you want to close that out?
I'm going to close this out by saying, can everyone please give another round of applause for these actors?